Tom is not gonna be joining us this evening, and David is also not gonna be joining us.
So that just,
I haven't heard from Eric. Oh, here we go.
You have a quorum? Hey, Eric.
Hi.
Eric.
that man.
One
So I
more.
think that we do. Who else
No, you
is-
need one more. The group is 6.
Yeah, but
3 is only 50%.
Aren't you 4?
You're enough to
Yeah.
count as a
Are you
portion of a
four?
Oh, yes,
person.
I'm 4. Never mind, never mind.
Count yourself,
You
Scott.
count.
You
I
count
always
too.
forget to count myself.
didn't count at CIP, we'd never have a meeting.
Yeah.
We may not have other forms of release. I think I left them on my desk.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to cut, are they just me or everyone?
They're everyone.
Oh, well, that's
They
great.
they don't require a vote. It was an intent to cut.
Okay, can we do it at the next, oh gosh, that's not till next week.
It'll be okay.
Okay.
The neighbors are fighting anyway, so they
Oh, fine, so it'll be,
stop the
there's
logging
time.
operation.
Great, that sounds so fun.
And it's conceivable that Denise will show up with it.
Okay.
On this budget, the budgets that I will be reviewing tonight, I put highlighted in green the topic, and there's a couple of changes to other budgets that I highlighted in yellow that I'll just discuss
Only on the paper copy or on the,
only on the paper copy.
Do you want one, Rebecca?
no,
Are we
I'm
ready?
trying not to kill trees, though, because they're already dead.
Well, they're already dead, so just take one.
The trees have been dead.
No, yes?
No, thank you, I'm
Yes.
good.
Oh,
Everything's on my
Yes.
iPad.
So you just take one out of it.
It's 6 o'clock, time to call the meeting to order. This is the ABC Committee on the 26th of October, and I am turning it over to you, Stacy.
I thought that we had something that we needed to cover.
Oh,
yeah,
with,
You're right, I
Chief
apologize.
here.
I am taking it back and now actually going to have this part of the meeting.
So, we have a 17-year-old skid steer in the transfer station that broke at the beginning of last week. The arms are stuck as high up as they can go, they won't go down. It was due to be replaced in July anyway, as part of the CIP, to fix it. It's gonna be about $5,000, and I don't particularly think spending $5,000 for 6 months is a smart move. So, before I spend all the time getting bid stuff together and trying to see if I can get demos brought down so we can try them out first, I just wanted to make sure that it was something that the 3 of you were interested in moving forward with. It's the biggest one that we currently have, so it's the one that does,
Most of the.
yeah, it's the one that does all the heavy lifting out back and a lot of the big bale work, so.
It makes sense for you to get some price quotes and because.
I was gonna go out to bid with it.
Okay.
We're trying to keep it under 75 horsepower so we can avoid all the big emission stuff and we don't have to use diff fluid and things like that. But, yeah, we got 17 years out of it, so.
I'd be amenable for you to get whatever you need to do
Okay.
and bring it back to us.
And this is one of several skid steers. You have another one that will be needing to be replaced soon, but this is the one that needs to be replaced because it's broken.
Yeah, this would be the next one on the list.
Perfect.
Anyway, but yeah, it was bought in '06, so.
And the capital reserve fund is expendable, so we should be able to.
Yes, and
Yep.
there's enough money in it to be able to do it.
Sounds great. Anyone opposed? Go for it. As to bid it goes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
Steve?
What else do we need to cover tonight?
I do have a paper one if I thought that I might not have.
Oh, beautiful. Is there anything else on our agenda? I don't have agenda.
I would do it after the motion.
Okay.
please.
All right, so we're ready to pass it over to ABC? All right, Stacy. it's you.
Wonderful, thank you. And I'm gonna pass it over to Andy for our town budget.
Okay, as I mentioned earlier, the items that I intend to go over tonight are highlighted in green. I have not brought detailed backup information. If the budget committee or the select board has specific things that they want to see, by all means, request them and I will email them to you in fairly short order. I know in years past, and I did bring some health insurance information tonight, which is a big driver here, but the budget committee has been interested in payroll expense or possibly potential retirees. So, to keep me on target, I've put together a PowerPoint, and going to start with the selectmen's budget, the executive portion. This is the first slide.
Best slide so far.
So the primary increase that I made in this budget, primary change, is a jump in the assistant town administrator's wage. I have the picture of the assistant town administrator with the chainsaw there. She is chainsaw safety approved by the state of New Hampshire. But I think it's important to understand, I know from time to time people refer to the assistant town administrator as a receptionist or the secretary, and the position is really much more than that. And specifically, I'd like to just review a few of the things that she does. We have an assessing clerk. He's in the office 1 day a week, and he's typically outside inspecting property that 1 day a week. So the assistant town administrator is the de facto assessing clerk as well as the administrator. We have the town clerk's office, which is open 3 days a week, but there are 2 days where we have a regular stream of people coming to look for help with, particularly elderly people, for help with tax credit forms, that type of thing, and the assistant town administrator is the first person they run into. We have a welfare director who is on a $5,000 contract and works in Portsmouth. So if people need assistance, which they do, or just guidance, typically the assistant town administrator is the first person they run into. When we talked with the select board prior to budget time, the board had expressed that if you were going to try to give employees in your department increases, you should put them in the budget as a regular line item, and they wanted to get back to a one and done salary adjustment for employees. It's been a couple of years outside of COLA since the assistant was adjusted. I would also point out that the town administrator's salary, the current year budget was $87,450. That salary is actually at $90,000 now. The select board changed it. I had thrown 91 and 71 in there when I had talked to other towns about the difference between the assistant administrator and the administrator, or the difference between the assistant manager and the manager. For whatever reason, it intended to be $20,000. So that's where those numbers came from, and put them in there hoping that would be a starting point for discussion anyway. The other items in the budget stayed roughly the same with the exception of overtime. We've gone over on the overtime line. When I look back, we've actually been over on the overtime line for 4 or 5 years, so it made sense to budget that correctly. Yes?
Who gets paid overtime? Kind of overtime?
That would be the assistant town administrator.
Okay, so she is actually hourly.
She is an hourly employee.
Okay.
I'm exempt, but she's not.
Good question. So for the overtime line, you've got, looks like you're requesting 5,000 in the
Yes.
budget, but in the 2 prior actual years, you went over even that.
I am hoping that the 2 prior years were exceptional. One of those years, the assistant town administrator had to act as town administrator for a while in there. The following year, she had to put up with me coming in, and this year she's had to endure losing our long-term finance officer and doing a lot of the finance work ourselves while we train a new person to take that position. And I am envisioning and looking forward to a calmer time where neither the assistant town administrator or myself need to spend so much time trying to figure out finance.
That sounds delightful.
The other items stayed the same. I did not discuss the select board salary with the select board.
Good.
Don't know if they're content with that or not.
I thought this was a volunteer position for you guys.
I basically.
It'd be easier because then it could just be counted as volunteer and wouldn't feel so weird.
It's a little better than the legislature.
$1 an
Did the
hour.
leaders not submit a budget, or is it just hasn't come yet?
I'm sorry, pardon?
The league readers is also under this section?
No, we moved, I apologize, I had to
Oh, you
leave them
moved it? Okay.
listed. I had to leave them listed here because of the DRA code
That's fine.
to show the expenditure, but they are down on page, I lumped everybody together that was distributed throughout under other government, which is on page 6.
Thank you.
We had, the Sustainability Committee was under government buildings, the lead readers were under the select board,
I like
so
it.
I just lumped them together.
Together is great.
That's a great idea.
Other questions on the executive budget? I don't have such good pictures on the following slides, but moving on to financial administration, salary, software, and IT are the big ticket items on this. You can look through, I've got some of the logos up there. Back Bay Networks is the firm that we use for IT management. We still have a very competitive contract with them. They actually have not changed their overall underlying service contract for 12 years maybe. And it's very affordable considering what we get out of them. Everything from the actual physical running of lines to work on the phone system, helping us with the alarms if needed. They were here today trying to fix the projector connection. One of the other things, the increase in postage. Our postage meter is at the end of its life, and I've been informed by Pitney Bowes that the indicer will not work after the end of next May into June. They bumped that back a little. They actually told me that the prior year, and we were able to continue this year. We're also just having some mechanical problems with it in addition to the indicer. Postage meters, that's lumped in with postage. I've been given a little over $4,000 for replacement of the postage meter.
So that's why the postage IT line item is up so much. It's in addition to the regular, what we spend on postage, it's gonna be
Right.
that
We're also
appliance.
anticipating postage is not going to get cheaper, but
Okay.
the big jump is throwing the postage meter in there.
Okay. And for the Back Bay Networks, is that all lumped into computer services, or is that kind of throughout some of these line items?
That is primarily in computer services. We use them for, they typically make recommendations to us for computer hardware, and they're able to buy computer hardware. Generally, they come in significantly lower than any estimates I get elsewhere, just because of the volume they buy at, but.
Okay.
Can I make a request that wherever the postage meter is gets moved from its line back and put it in new equipment?
Sure.
Because really the IT, the postage IT is really the service, not the equipment. And then subsequent years, you can see how much postage is versus the blip.
Right.
With buying the.
Good point.
Andy, can you talk a little bit about the transition in the accounting service?
Sure. And that would be the Municipal Technology System logo up there. MTS is a division of MRI, which is Municipal Resources, Inc., based here in New Hampshire. I'm going to be careful what I say here. The transition has been more difficult than we expected, and for lack of a better way to put this, we had a financial software package, financial software platform that should have been capable of handling all our bookkeeping needs and finance needs. The prior finance director, unbeknownst to me, was not particularly comfortable with that platform and used it for some things, and also used QuickBooks and another software accounting platform to keep things. It has been much more of a slog than I anticipated. I thought that we were going to download everything from Tyler ERP and slap it over to MTS and be ready to go, and that has not been the case. The contracted service that we've had from MRI and our new person have spent an undue amount of time tracking down. Everything is there, but it's not recorded in a central place. We're in the process of undergoing our audit right now. We found out that for the last 3 or 4 years, revenue had been double booked, probably due to 2 systems being used to keep it. We're at the correct numbers, but it has not been an easy process to balance and reconcile.
It's challenging every year to get revenue because we've always struggled.
It's been extremely challenging. The only easy thing about the transition to the new software has been the actual budgeting software that I'm able to put these worksheets together with. These worksheets are coordinated with the actual MS forms that DRA uses, so when I fill those out, I don't have to collect a bunch of financial information on paper and try to code it into the DRA system. I can auto-load reports, and I can also auto-load these budget worksheets and convert them into Excel or CVT files or whatever I need, all on the same platform, which for the last 2 years has been a mighty struggle between the finance director, the assistant town administrator, and myself to get spreadsheets put together.
Did the changes the auditors finding prior year reports have to be changed?
No, I don't believe so. That's something that we've been discussing for the last couple of weeks, and as of today, they are comfortable. As I said, nothing's missing, everything's there, it's just hidden, for lack of a better
My
term.
favorite word.
When finances, absolutely.
Okay.
Hey,
But do you see the end of the tunnel?
I do. I think that we're at a place now where prior year's reconciliation had not been a true reconciliation. It had essentially been a reconciliation of the checking account, not a reconciliation to the general ledger. That had been going on for probably a decade. When the new people, particularly Brenda from MTS came in, she immediately went into shock because there was not an actual stop and start at the end of the fiscal year, a true reconciliation. So
Prior auditors never told you about it?
that has never been raised. Brenda talked about it with them. I was a little surprised that prior audits had raised concerns over things like the fact that I had a key to the finance office and there were blank checks in there.
Yeah,
Various
there was
other
some operational
small
things
things.
that have been raised that I thought were kind
Are we looking for new auditors now in light of this?
We are under contract with the auditors that we have, and I think we're in a good place with the auditors at this point, in large part because of Brenda from MRI, working with them and arguing with them.
Okay, so just so I'm clear here, MRI is the service that we're contracted with. They use MTS?
MTS is the software, yes, that
Okay.
we developed.
Okay, where is MTS? What line item is that in?
And that would be under software, services, and where else did we have Tyler? Denise? Software support services and computer services.
Okay, and then we have MRI contracted services, so this is actually Brenda.
That's actually Brenda
Okay.
and Christian.
So who is finance officer salary?
That is our bookkeeper.
Okay,
That line was tagged as finance officer in the original code, so we left it. But that is our bookkeeper, Taylor Short.
okay, got it. Just wanted to make sure I was clear on all the moving parts here. And MRI contracted services, just to refresh my memory, we contract with them for like a certain number of hours.
We do, and at present, I am over on the hours, just as we work to sort this out, but
Okay.
I envision those hours. Taylor is learning on a weekly basis, and I expect the need for contracted services to go down.
Okay,
When we initially started, the MTS software included a payroll module. We had a contractor from MRI that was doing payroll as well on an hourly basis, and Taylor has completely taken over payroll for the last few months, and that person is no longer
okay.
contracted with us.
How's payroll going?
It's going well. Denise has an active role in being the second set of eyes on payroll. When we had the first handoff, we had some difficulties. We had a couple of payrolls that we had to hand cut checks for people. Not everybody, but people were missed on the, looking for the ACH. But we're past that at this point. I think things are going well. The assistant town administrator has been a big part of that. We realized that we needed a little more oversight than we were getting. She took that role.
Andy, had our bookkeeper worked with this system before?
I'm
Had our bookkeeper, the new bookkeeper, was she
No,
familiar
she
with
did
the
not.
system? Okay.
The new bookkeeper is rather young, and her experience had been working with Fidelity in Merrimack, and she had not worked with municipal software before. Well, one of the problems we ran into was we interviewed several people that did have more municipal experience, and the salary expectations were extremely high. We also did not have anywhere near the number of candidates we thought we would have.
And she's learning all the new stuff and doing great now.
Several of the, I mean, I knew that there was a demand for municipal bookkeepers. I did not realize quite how steep the demand was, and basically if I took my salary and Denise's salary and combined them, we probably could have found an experienced municipal bookkeeper.
I'm not surprised by anything you've said tonight. End to end, it's not surprising. Disappointed about the auditor, but I'm not surprised there either.
Well, as I said, I think we're in a very good place moving forward with this fiscal year. We have a clear stopping and starting point from June 30th, moving into July 1st. I think the auditors are well aware of what had gone on previously, and as I said, nothing is missing, everything is there. It's just not been in a place where it was easy to work with, easy to move, easy to reconcile.
How much longer do we have in our contract with our auditor?
We have this year and next year.
The market for that type of audit, there are very few firms in the state that do those audits.
Really?
I believe there are 3 at this point that are
I'm surprised there's still 3.
selected.
Yeah.
Andy, the last line item in that section?
Yes.
Did you get the 5,500?
That was based on if we lost, I believe I had calculated if we lost a laptop, if we lost one of the desktop units we used, and there was also some consideration if we had to enhance our storage capacity.
So nothing from the MTAC people? That was one of their charges to create.
No, that was based on discussions I had with Steve Gagnon from Back Bay. And I suspect that he had initially wanted us to consider a new server. Our contract with MTS includes cloud storage for our financial data, so we're not envisioning the need for cutting edge.
Didn't we have like a whole, like the police department server and something was happening with that? Did that not happening or? Remember that?
Was it last year or the year before that they had to replace that server?
We actually, my recollection is we shifted servers.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh, okay.
And one ended up with the police department instead of buying a new one.
Right,
But,
okay. I remembered something.
I can go back.
No, I think you're right.
Get the history of that.
So can you go back to the MTAC people and reiterate that at least this board member would like them to work on inventory replacement and a schedule for that? So we don't get hit one year, it's 20,000, next year it's nothing. So at least we know what's coming.
Yes,
That was
right
one of
now,
the charges.
right now, we're in a very good place in the town office for hardware. We have essentially, I think, my individual office is probably the oldest, and more than adequate and is perhaps 4 years old. Everything else at this point, town clerk's office, assistant town administrator, planning and zoning are within 2 years.
Okay. Well,
What is the MTech?
Municipal Technology Advisory Committee,
Okay, that's under one.
Yes.
Okay.
but I believe that's one of the things that at least I thought we charged them with.
At one point, we were talking about Steve's computer being something they had salvaged from the
Yes,
swap
but
shop.
now what is
Is that
Julia
been
using?
resolved?
Julia has a computer that was provided, Julia has a laptop, and there is a desktop in Steve's office that were provided by Back Bay. They also have a number of salvage computers, one of which Peter uses as a parts computer to
Okay.
order parts that's in the garage at the highway department, I believe. There are also, I believe, 2 salvage units at the transfer station that Chip Bellier, the transfer station manager, uses as well.
So if you want to downgrade your computer and upgrade the transfer station, you know where to go.
None of the other departments had requests for new hardware or discussions with me about that. I believe we're all in a good place. Okay. Moving on, reevaluation of property. This is our assessing contract for day-to-day assessing needs. I believe we are 3 years out from having to do the reval at this point. This is the last year of our present contract with MRI assessing. I called the 3 competitive assessing companies in New Hampshire. All of them told me that they would expect to see at least a 10% increase in their service costs going into the next fiscal year. I think the only real competition, well, there are 2 competitors for MRI, that being Vision Appraisal and Avatar Appraisal. Both Avatar and Vision offer slicker online access to property cards, information, that type of thing. They are also considerably more expensive than MRI. I know we'll certainly go out to bid, but I would envision MRI being by far the most competitive bid for those services. Legal expense, I've left this the same. We have no known issues on the horizon, but you never know what you're going to run into.
What's P and Z? Planning and zoning?
Yes,
Okay.
yep. And that's typically what generates legal expense.
Okay.
Although this year, for the most part, it was fire safety and life safety codes that.
You never know.
Where would those legal expenses end up? Ones for fire safety, would they still be in the section?
Yeah, they actually came in through a result of code enforcement.
Right.
But
But I meant
through
physically,
planning and
they'd end
zoning.
up in the budget in this category. They would-
Yes.
Okay.
Planning and zoning has a line for legal, so there'll be, there's.
Yeah.
Even
That's
if
right,
there's
0.
even code enforcement would be in there. Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
Personnel administration, and this is the big ticket item of the budgets that I supervise. Health insurance and retirement are the bulk of this budget section, more than half. I've been advised by Health Trust to anticipate a 14.5% increase for the next year. How that works is they give me an estimate now. They operate on a calendar year for the most part, so they give me their best guess now. Sometime, usually around May, they will come back with a firmed up actual renewal quote that they will give me in June. They'll give me a rough idea in May, and then they'll give me a hard and fast number in June before we get to renewal. In years past, their estimates have always been wildly high. If they said 14%, they were likely to come in at 6.9 or 7. This past year, they said 15.7% and came in at about 14% for the increase. So, some of the other items in there, life and disability coverages that are included in the benefit package here went down in cost. Dental went up by a smidge. And just some background information for the health insurance part of this. Of the 28 employees that are eligible for health insurance, we have 3 that opt for the buyout. The buyout is essentially the cost of the single plan paid on a quarterly basis to employees if they opt out of insurance. Of our employees, we have 9 that opt for the single plan coverage, 8 that take the 2-person coverage, and 9 that take family coverage. The town pays 100% of single plan. They pay 75% of a 2-person or family plan. Our current health plan is an Access Blue, which is Blue Cross Blue Shield New England HMO plan. The current health rates, the single plan is $1,231 a month. The 2-person plan is $2,461 a month, and the family plan is $3,323 a month. The dental rates correspond to that are 47 for the single, 91 for the 2-person, and 158 for the family plan. Oh, sorry.
So for the personnel health insurance line, the fiscal year 22 actual is 350,000 and change. It goes up by almost 50% to fiscal year 23 actual, and then it's going up by, give or take, 25% again. Is this, everybody is continuing to put family members on their plan and or have more family members?
Well, there's been some
prices going up?
fluctuation. If you're looking at the actual line versus the budgeted, there's been some fluctuation because we've had big holes in the fire department and police department. So our actuals have not been what we anticipated because of lack of employees or employees leaving during the year. We budget for having not necessarily a full roster in the fire department, but we budget for having the full roster of police officers and a good anticipation of close to full for the fire department.
Okay. So that's the issue with fiscal year 22, is we just didn't have everybody we needed to have in that
Very much
particular
so.
year. So then what about the increase in the requested amount over the prior year actual?
And that again is, we've been down police officers and firemen for the prior year actual. I am looking at, if we had full rosters and we got the 14% increase they told us is likely, and that we did get this year for the people we had, what the worst case scenario would be.
Okay.
So in that particular vein, can you provide that list?
Yes.
You can blank out the people's names, but I think that would help Eric in terms of his questions.
Yeah, and I know traditionally, as I said, last year, I did not budget based on the percentage increase they'd given me. I'd been a selectman in another town for 20 years, and they'd done the same thing, and they never came close to their projected increase, and suddenly they did. So I got a little nervous.
We also have 2 new full-time employees that we didn't have before.
Right.
And for open positions, do you budget for anticipated open positions? Do you budget family? Yeah.
We have in years past, yes.
Why did the buyout go up so much?
We have more employees opt to take it.
Has that buyout been adjusted for the increases to the health insurance premiums? Like if we're offering single buyout dollar figures?
It has.
Okay.
So we're asking for documentation, also the salary spreadsheet as well? Because that would be helpful for them as well.
Yep, I have a salary spreadsheet that I can provide you, and
And lastly, when we're doing requests, what's it? Not paying vacation, it's the accrued benefits,
right,
in terms of how much is out there for the liability of that.
and that has decreased to some extent, but as I mentioned, we do have, there is one potential.
Well, not as much as it was 2-3 years ago.
No.
So there's still one employee that has that clause in their contract?
No, at this point, no employees have contracts.
Okay.
It's just somebody that's been here for.
Yeah,
ever,
if someone's been here for 25 years and has,
Yeah.
a lot of vacation, a lot of sick time.
Already accrued.
Yeah, what we have to pay out.
Okay.
Going into payroll expenses, those are what they are. We've raised those by percentages that are in line with what wages were increased in the past year. Federal tax withholding is 7.65, 6.2 for Social Security, and 1.45 for Medi. The New Hampshire retirement is a little different. That's split into 3 categories for municipal employees. For standard employees such as myself, the contribution rate from the town is 13.53% of wage to the retirement system. For firefighter EMTs, it's 30.35% of wage, and for police, it's 31.28. The fire and police are what they are because their retirement targets are much shorter than other employees, and they also don't get Social Security. Workers' comp is actually in personal administration too. That fluctuates based on your claims rate and your audit. We will go up a little bit this year because wages are increased. If we have a safe year, that should be negligible.
What is the line item with $1 in it? Is that a placeholder?
Personal
There's a few of them.
retirement.
Yes, that's a strange transfer that we have to do with the state for police, and I'm never sure what it is. Some years it's been 0, some years it's been $24, some years it's 200 and something. So I just put $1 in it as a placeholder. That's something that hasn't been, placeholders have not necessarily been used in past town budgets, and that's something that DRA recommends, that you have $1 in a line. If you're not
Otherwise
sure,
you can't use it, right?
you're not supposed to use the line if you don't have a placeholder in it.
Right.
There's a couple of strange charges in here. The IRS penalty line, that was prior year mistake on an IRS form. I was surprised to find out that the town was no longer an entity, and that we were charged a penalty for missing a quarterly because they didn't calculate it. Someone who's no longer with us had filled out a form and checked the wrong boxes, and they had actually taken us down as a viable entity. So I had to get that straightened out, and they backed off on the original. I believe it was $4,500 penalty, but still hit us for $500.
The story behind every number, you guys.
There are some other strange things in here. The fire accident and health, that's actually a unique fire department benefit that is it's an additional death benefit and an additional disability benefit. It's administered through Green Insurance. Mr. Green is a retired New Hampshire firefighter who runs a specialty plan that the fire department has bought into, and it's been a part of the budget. And it shows up in my budget instead of the fire department budget. I'm not sure why. And we left the other lines pretty much as they were. We increased the background check line a little bit. We've gone over previous years, and we're hoping to hire some more police officers and some more firefighter EMTs, and those both require background checks.
Can you talk a little bit about this FSA line? I know it's only $250, but like what, are we paying into somebody's FSA through this, or?
It's an FSA program that employees can participate in, that we have to pay in, and
That's administrative.
that's the administrative fee.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
It's gotten much more complicated because in prior years, the Health Trust has actually administered the FSA program that they charge us administration fees for. They have since changed how they do that, so the assistant town administrator, myself, and the bookkeeper have to do a lot of mathematical calculation, and about 50% of the administration ourselves, and then
that why it's
get
less than last
reimbursed
year?
from.
Looks like we gave you a decrease. Because your actual was almost 500. You're asking for 250, so I'm guessing that's what I'm just asking, is that, well, at least you saved $250 with the tons of hours extra that I'm sure cost us way more.
$250 worth of
Yeah,
frustration in the first couple
exactly.
months.
I'm so sorry.
It changed July 1, but.
Ay.
Okay, so I will get the board the health insurance spreadsheet, the accrued benefits information, and a salary spreadsheet.
How many open positions do we have right now in the town?
Well, I believe we have fire and police. We have 2 new candidates coming into the fire department, and we have 2 new recruits coming into the police department. I believe that leaves the police department down 1 officer from a full roster, and I am not entirely sure how far off the mark the fire department will be.
Which is better than almost every town around right now.
Yes.
Amazing that we've been staffed.
Yes, and particularly on the fire side, we're getting 2 experienced candidates who are ready to go and eager to be in police, so
Nice.
that's a big change from some of the other
Yeah.
we've had. Insurance, property and casualty, this is the multi-peril building and contents package, which also includes our liability. It's accompanied by vehicle and mobile equipment coverage. They've given us their best estimate of what the rates will be, and that's what I've used.
Page 6.
Then no increase over the current year, that's unusual.
We have not had a lot of claims this past year, good rating there. That was what they had given me for, they sent me an estimate, but again, it depends a little bit on your loss ratio. They can ding you if we have 2 or 3 vehicle accidents or burn down a building, that type of thing. We could see an increase.
Okay.
General assistance. Oh, and actually, there's a couple of yellow lines in here I wanted to call attention to. These were adjustments that we made in other budgets. On page 4, cell phone reimbursements, we increased the cell phone reimbursement for planning and zoning. For whatever reason, that estimate had been a little off prior year. The same thing on highway. We increased the amount to match the actual cost of having cell phones, and that's on page 9. Since it went from $2,025 to $2,900, because it's $2,900 a year for the phones they have now. And also on highway, under new equipment / tools, I had added the $15,000 for the GIS software. That's $9,000 for the software, and $6,000 for the startup fee that Steve was looking to.
What is that? Andy, what software is that?
It's a GIS inventorying software. It's sort of a three-phase program. It allows Steve to GIS map and inventory culverts, ditching, that sort of thing. It also has a tool inventory on it, and it also enables him to inventory buildings and the systems in the buildings by building. So he can easily call up the town office building on his computer and see what's there for heating, what's there for cooling, what fuel it uses, when it was last maintenance, that sort of thing.
This is what he was telling us. Somebody was spending weeks looking up
I
past
missed his
records.
presentation, unfortunately.
Oh, you did, okay.
Yeah,
It's recorded.
It's difficult, and like in most small towns, in this town, the go-to is find Randy Stevens and ask him if he remembers where the well is or where the culvert is. But it's like that in every town, and at some point, the Randy Stevenses will no longer be available to come out and show you where the buried tank or the.
Will he have to, who will be building that database for him?
They actually are supposed to do much of the database building at the start. That's why there are two charges. There's a $9,000 software cost and a $6,000 startup cost. He also believes that they're going to be able to scan a fair amount of his paperwork into digital form, which he was excited about.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
Under welfare administration, the contract that we have with the welfare officer is $5,000. I've left it the same. And that was one thing that I did not get a breakout of. I believe there's an error for the 23 actual on the 6698. That's compilation of something, because the actual expenditure was $5,000 in 23. Left this, our actual for rent assistance was extremely high last year. Not sure what to expect this year. It hasn't been in prior years. In fact, we have a long history of paying next to nothing for rent assistance. We got hit hard last year. There's no particular crystal ball to look into for this, but.
This year we've already had a few thousand, so definitely not on their end.
I actually have not received a budget request from the welfare department, so.
So people first go to our welfare officer asking for rental assistance, and then she, either approves or denies or sends them to an additional resource?
Well, I think what you heard when you heard from the health agencies, sometimes they go first to the welfare officer, particularly if they run into Denise or myself or Karen Rossi. We try to direct them to the welfare officer. They also go to Stratford CAP probably pays the most in rent and mortgage assistance in Lee. As their director mentioned, that they spent about $170,000 in Lee last year. A number of people also go to the Lee Congregational Church, which actually works in close conjunction with the assistant town administrator, the health officer, and the welfare officer. In fact, the past week or two, all 4 or 5 of us have been involved in sorting out situations and using multiple agencies. The welfare, and just to give you an example of how this works, we had a person that came in that had a specific problem. As we identified the specific problem, it turned out that there were 3 or 4 other dire problems. The welfare officer started work on the official paperwork that she has to file and use to get access to their bills, and so she can verify their income, that type of thing. In the meanwhile, Oyster River Women Aid took care of an auto repair problem. The Congregational Church took care of an electricity bill and a pending outage, and Karen Rossi coerced an oil company into donating a tank of oil how are we gonna pay them?
Making that
Well,
happen.
Made that happen without,
Is that typical for everyone in the town to be so involved, or is that normally what the welfare officer would be working on?
I think in towns that have active welfare officers, that would be the welfare officer, possibly the health officer. Typically, the health officer stumbles into these things first and would bring them to the welfare officer. For whatever reason, in Lee, typically, people that are seeking general assistance stumble into Denise's office.
Okay.
The process starts there.
This was a special
officer.
Yeah.
situation.
Oh, it is Karen, okay.
This particular individual had come back to the assistant town administrator's office because the assistant town administrator had been instrumental in helping her with some back taxes and understanding tax credits and that sort of thing. So. And I'm happy to say that despite the general confusion and number of people involved, she is in her home.
Oh, that's great.
Her vehicle is running, she has electricity, which was going to be shut off, she has oil, and she now has a cell phone because she had no phone, which was making it difficult for the welfare officer to work with her.
That's amazing. And has somebody reached out with her to help her with energy efficiency or no?
No.
Just asking.
That has not happened.
CAP would help there.
It's an older manufactured housing unit.
Yeah,
so-
no, that's exactly what they work on, that's perfect. Yeah, definitely let CAP know. And then the bills will go down again.
So just so I understand correctly, after all of the assistance that we've received for this person, if there is no further assistance available, then we, the town of Lee, would offer rent assistance, which would come out of this general assistance line item.
We would, and we, the town of Lee, are obligated to provide assistance to those eligible, whether we have the money budgeted or not,
Okay.
by state statutes. So
Okay.
I think Lee is extremely lucky that we have a number of social service agencies and churches around us that really step up to the plate in a big way. If you look at other communities around us, their general assistance expenditures are much larger.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to go too far north to run into towns the size of Lee that are expending $150,000, $175,000, $220,000 a year.
And that's on top of a full-time welfare agent, correct?
Full-time or, lots of towns are using a 32-hour or 28-hour a week welfare officer.
Andy, can you check in general assistance under fiscal '22 actuals? We expended nothing. I find that hard to believe.
We did not spend anything.
Yeah,
We didn't spend anything?
we did spend nothing.
Thanks.
Andy, does our involvement strictly relate to paying bills, or do you guys actually end up helping people find places to live? as well?
The welfare officer and the health officer have helped people find temporary housing, certainly.
That hasn't extended to the two of you, I would hope.
Yeah, and it would typically, to give you an example, last year we had an apartment building here in town that, I forget whether it was weather-related or what have you, but they lost power. There were several handicapped people in that building. They had no heat, that sort of thing. The welfare officer and the health officer found them temporary housing. One of them was a vacant rental, I believe the other one was a hotel.
Can I just explain the 2022 rental assistance? That was because we had rental assistance through the COVID funding. So that completely changed and went away.
Right, and the federal money that was coming for rental assistance is essentially done next week.
But that's why that was
October
zero.
31st is the cutoff date for that federal program, that it sunsets for good, as I understand it.
Yeah, correct. So more need.
Do we still have people that are on that program that we'll have to find money for?
I don't have a record of those people, but I'm certain that there are landlords in Lee that have people on that program that are, Tom Murdoch would be a good one to ask about that.
So will we need to pick that up from town resources?
They may choose to come to us, yes.
So is $6,500 enough for that? line item?
It could well be level. As I said, if you look at the range of years here, we've had next to nothing to 15,000. I would say the 15,000 is a complete outlier in the last decade for the general assistance budget.
Okay.
It's always been very low.
But there used to be a lot more housing available, so now people are stuck with
I
different
can
situations.
go back to the welfare officer and ask for a better estimate of what we might.
Yeah, that might be good.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea too, just to give us a better ballpark, like when that assistance ends. Because we could be on the hook for a lot of money.
Yeah, the assistance sunsets October 31st.
Okay.
We'll know more soon.
And there is some funding that's going to continue. They're just going to stop accepting new applications on October 31st. And I think it was announced today too, the state is getting $27.6 or $27.8 million in federal fuel aid. Will also be available. Okay, I will check on the rental estimate.
Thank you.
And that is really the end of the budget items that I have. Patriotic purposes. Patriotic purposes is left the same.
Is it the year to replace flags and stuff?
Depending on the weather. We have, as far as the cemetery flags, some commemorative items, small flags and the metal plaques identifying which war veterans served in. We're in good shape with those. Pete assures me we're well stocked up.
But this is usually for the buntings on the buildings and stuff
Right.
like that. So-
This is buntings, flags,
Okay.
and flags, if we do need to replace a flag, actually I had looked at flags with Denise a couple of months ago and was surprised to find out that the cheapest New Hampshire state flag you could buy was on order of $350.
Wow.
US flags were a little cheaper, but not much.
Wow.
You also, can you stick in the Stratford County payment? We do.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know that amount?
What's that for?
Stratford County?
Oh, the tax
We
amount?
pay, yeah,
Oh,
for all the tax.
Yeah,
Services.
I didn't include that yet, but I can.
Yeah.
Jail.
Well, you've got
it-
Sheriff.
You got it in there for a prior year, so.
Yeah. We have until December 17th to pay it, and out of the goodness of their heart, they provided us with the electronic deposit information this year, so we can get them their money faster.
Oh, that was fun. Don't we normally drive it because it's over a certain amount?
We usually drive it at midnight on the 16th, but
No, we don't. We normally drive it a little later in the year, though. I do know that.
usually Mr. Bugby or yourself.
Yeah.
And I think, have you done
I
one?
haven't had
Could
the
be your
pleasure of
turn.
doing that.
It's very exciting.
We have electronic deposit information. It sounds unnecessary to use the town resources at my time.
You guys are really driving payments around the state.
I know, right?
It's like $1.5 million.
No, it's more than that,
Yeah.
1.6.
I mean, I'll do it. I've never had
Oh,
a
this
check
one
in my
says
hand for
1.4
$1.5 million.
It is kind of an interesting feeling.
There are two ways you can accomplish that for you.
Okay.
You can deliver the county tax thing, or you can come to the bank with me when we make transfers to the school district.
Those are less than a million a
Anything from
month.
Dr. Morse about the school?
Pardon?
Anything from Dr. Morse about the school?
No, I did send them the MS1 information that they
Yeah,
needed.
that's why.
They are actually having a tax forecasting session this evening as we speak. They were meeting at 6:30, I believe.
And they also have new people on staff, so we understand the growing pains in that too.
And our tax rate? Our tax rate?
We are, at this point, everything has been filed except the 535 from the auditors. And I believe they were complete as of this afternoon, and I am hoping that they file the 535 tomorrow. They have to do the initial filing on their behalf. I can't file that.
So maybe we can do it on Monday?
We don't need them.
Tomorrow, or hopefully if we can get it back by Monday, but I have no guarantee that the DRA will turn it around and approve that quickly.
Thanks.
When is when will be the chance that we'll be able to the next meeting we have is the second. We're not meeting
Are
on
you
the third.
cancel that one?
Yeah. So the second of,
I'm hoping very much that we will have all the documentation we need for you to sign on the 6th, and we can,
We can do it on the second.
oh, the sixth, not the seventh, okay. Okay,
Well, you can do it on the second. Police
Right.
department.
if it's all done, Tim.
I don't know that I'll be here on the second. Do you need me for
You
that?
just
Two of
do
us.
Two.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
I'll be,
fine.
well, yeah, I'll be racing over from Manchester, but I'll try to be here.
and as long as the motion's made, I can hold it in the office, and so you can stop in and sign it, or
Great.
I can meet you at the coffee shop if it opens.
Yeah, I'm
Get a
realizing I
signature,
don't
whatever
have
needs to
the,
be done.
our meeting's at 6, right?
Yep.
All right, I don't know if I'll be here in time. That's
You
one
do it at
second.
the end of the meeting.
Yeah. That's perfect.
Can I ask a question about health insurance?
Yes.
Are we able to like go out for bids on health insurance, or are we like mandated to only use whatever comes from the state?
We are not mandated to use the health trust. Typically, the health trust is the most competitive option, but at least for, a similar plan. You could certainly go out to bid. I could go out to bid for the health insurance.
Okay. Do you know when the last time we did go out to bid for health insurance was?
I do not know. It would be before my time. We've been
Not
with
since I've been here.
Okay.
10 years.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, maybe not necessarily for this budget cycle, but maybe it would be prudent for us at some point in the future just to understand, like, are we getting a competitive rate compared to other options available? And at least just ask the question, see what else is out there.
Yep. One of the things that I did not do this year, I had done in years past, was call a health insurance broker friend of mine and get a spreadsheet of similar plans. And the health source plan was by far and away the most bang for the buck, so we stayed there, but I could certainly do that again.
Is that-
Or like other municipalities, do we know of anybody that's not using the health trust by any chance?
See, the bulk of municipalities are using health trust. That's not the case necessarily with school districts. There were a couple of similar organizations to the health trust that only do schools that some of the school districts are with.
Okay.
I forget the name of the leading one. It has an apple as a logo.
School care.
If the,
Yeah,
School care.
School
I know all about it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Andy, one of the things, can you look into, and I don't know if we've done this before, but is there anybody that you can speak to see if we can use healthcare.gov in terms of saying the town will provide no health insurance to you, and maybe we can give them a stipend or something like that? Because many of those particular plans are subsidized by the government, so I love it when the government pays and I don't, as a town person. But I don't know if there's any rule why we can't do that, something like that.
I don't know of any particular rule why you couldn't do that.
Isn't there a number of employees that's an issue?
Yeah, but
They
we
go
only
over-
have one.
I think you're under the limit, I think it was 50.
Yeah, we're under 50 employees.
Yeah.
So just something to, even if it's, the answer is no, if somebody asks that particular question.
Yep.
So,
Does Health Trust have options, or is there?
We have two options, and they are just about identical in cost. It's the difference between an HMO and whatever the other acronym is at this point.
PPO.
PPO.
It's not just, there's nothing there.
And there's no particular difference in price. I think the reason we're with the one we have is because of the New England network that it has affiliated with it.
The other option the town has is to change the percentages that we pay. That's the other way to control it. We changed it years ago in terms of percentages, because we used to pay 100%.
Across the board on all plans? Yeah.
Yeah. You pay 100% of the single at this point.
Yeah, we kept that one, but we figured, because it's what, 75 for the other two?
It's 75 to the two. One of the things I can do too is get a census of what other municipalities are doing to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, healthcare is obviously important, right? It's an important benefit that candidates look for when they're looking at
It is.
career opportunities, so I think that it's important that we continue to do something, but just curious what else is out there, and if the costs that we are paying continue to be competitive, I think that would be important to know.
Yep, I can certainly do that. And the, just accompanying that, nowhere near the expense, but the dental plan is a Delta dental plan as well,
Okay.
which is really the only dental plan option.
Well, it's the only one people actually take, because having the other ones like Guardian are useless, right?
Right.
Also curious
have
if
that one.
other municipalities are continuing with the insurance buyout.
And what we use for the insurance buyout is whether you're a two-person or a family, if you opt for the buyout, you get the single rate. And we don't have, I believe, we've had one new addition to that. I think right now we have 4 employees that opt for the buyout, is my recollection.
That's what you said, yeah.
Again, that's, we have 4 new employees coming on in the next 30 to 45 days,
Yeah,
so.
so that could
you know,
change.
It could change completely.
Yeah.
It's hard to beat a police or fire insurance policy though, right? Are they the same or they're different, right? They're different?
They're
I think
Oh,
the
they're
insurance
all
is
the
the
same.
same, the life insurance is likely to be
Life
much
insurance,
different.
Yeah,
Yep.
all right.
And the retirement costs.
The retirement costs are, more than double
Yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
police and fire. So it's a big chunk.
All right, any other questions for our town administrator?
If the committee doesn't mind, rather than wait until the next meeting, I'll get this information and email,
Yeah? that'd be great.
particularly the health insurance spreadsheet, the accrued benefits, that type of thing. I can just get those right out to you.
Blacking out the people's names.
Yep.
No other questions? Okay, thank you, Andy. The only other thing on our agenda for today was the nation's 250th committee.
They are unofficially asking for $5,000.
Are you on that committee, Mr. Buckby?
Yes, but I haven't attended the meeting because I was sick.
Okay,
But it's my understanding that they are requesting $5,000, and that's anticipating of acquiring people or groups to participate in the parade. So everybody's gonna want the fife and drum or the band or whatever it is. They're also considering doing it sometime in June, so that the students in the school can participate in particular events.
okay.
Because they're anticipating everybody wants to do it right around the 4th of July. And there's places that are bigger than us that those particular groups are gonna go to. But that's what they're requesting the $5,000 for, is in terms of, acquiring these particular people, because they're gonna want a deposit or something.
Have we thought about maybe teaming up with like Durham and Madbury to do an Oyster River event?
Different years, right?
I'm not sure if they
Well, I
talked
thought
about
it was
that.
the
Like I
nations.
said, it
Oh,
was
the
a-
nations,
yeah.
oh, yeah, yeah, sorry. Sorry, I was thinking it was
Not
the
different
town,
years.
yeah, yeah.
And
I was thinking of the town.
One of the persons that's assisting us is Janet Walsh. She lives in Madbury, but she's on the state's 250th committee.
Okay,
So we're gonna use her. Also, members of the committee who spoke with the people at Mastway, with the new principal and some other person, I don't remember who it was, but they are gung-ho for doing something. They want to participate in doing something in Colonial. We used to do, or back when we had ours, we did a mass tree thing. They would like us to redo that. The committee hasn't discussed it yet. So there's a whole bunch of things that we'd like to do collaboratively with different places.
okay.
Another thing they're looking at is having the DAR and the SAR do presentations so that people can get, jazzed up about the 250th. So they're talking about a whole bunch of things. Jan Allen is like the idea guru, if you will, because she's got a whole list of things she wants to do. And I think the committee has to look at what it can do and be successful at versus doing a whole bunch of stuff and not
Yeah.
doing them so well.
Yeah,
One thing I'd mention about that, you mentioned the state person from Madbury. Senator Shaheen, I think, is the vice chair of the national committee for the 250th celebration.
Okay.
So, and she's Madbury based. So
See you tomorrow, let me ask her something.
Ask her, she's got $5,000.
All right. Denise, I think that you sent some minutes, but I haven't had an opportunity to take a look at them yet.
Okay.
So I'm gonna pass on voting for those minutes today. All right. Any questions about the nation's 250th that we have for Mr. Bugby? No? All right. With that, we are at the agenda, or at the end of our agenda for the ABC. So I'll pass it back to you.
Great, thank you. What do we have left to do?
I had some housekeeping paperwork that
Beautiful.
the assessors and planning and zoning would appreciate if you could sign. One is a notice of intent to cut wood or timber, and this is for property at 140 Wadley Falls Road owned by the Koosters.
Is this the one that's controversial?
This is the one that the neighbors are discussing possible purchase of lot line adjustment to leave a larger beauty line after the commercial logging is done.
Okay.
But that does not require a motion, just signature. And the others don't require a motion either.
No, I just stayed.
Okay, these are, there are 3 land use tax change forms, and our assessor, Scott Marsh, said the sooner you get the paper processed, the sooner you can collect your money and get them back in the tax rolls at full rate.
Did I pass this back to you?
Yes.
Thank you. All set.
Thank you. I don't know if the board is aware, but the RSA's changed a few years back. So if you don't want to all have to sign the manifest, one select board member can approve the manifest.
It's up to you guys.
I like the idea of multiple eyes, but
Yeah, I just throwing it out there if you.
I agree with Scott.
yes, you can, sorry.
So I agree with Scott.
Great.
Yes, they did.
Oh, you didn't verify.
Oh. I actually do need you to sign the manifest too after review.
What else is she gonna pull out of that folder?
Baby possum.
Baby
Can I hold it?
Oh, and there's the rest of the check manifest.
Thanks. You didn't know how much fun we had as a select board, did you?
I had no idea.
Yeah, it's good times.
Very eye-opening.
Not to make light of baby possums, but
There's
actually,
nothing to make light of, that's very serious stuff.
I actually had to go into the street with Denise so she could verify that a baby possum was not carrying its young.
She has the best heart. You always have to stop for a possum and make sure, because that's not gonna be okay.
Don't tell me you two were out in the middle of 125, committing a viability of a possum.
Yes.
That
George
means
Bennett.
Andy
George
saw
Bennett.
her going and thought
Yes.
that he should put the car in the road so she'd at least have a barricade.
That's very normal. I wanna
We'd
be
like
in
our
this
insurance to
house.
stay low, so we don't want to
Oh,
pay
that's
claims on it.
It's safe.
Yeah, did you have a reflective vest?
Don't forget the shark on the floor.
Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh, that would have been
That's a
devastating.
dad looking out
Thank
for
you.
important
Baby
moments.
shark.
Baby shark.
Oh, no, don't you go there, don't you think about it.
We all thought it, so.
We all want it.
What else do we have to do tonight?
Survey of parents and children.
Any other business, since we're not gonna be meeting on Monday?
Not that I have.
I feel like somebody told me to bring something up, and I can't remember what it was. Is there something else I need to think of?
What's the process for changing banking services?
Great question.
We are anxious to change banking services, and I think the recommendation from all parties involved, and after the RFP that we did, we're leaning towards TD Bank as a recommendation. MRI and Ben would like to wait until after January 1st to make the transition, in part to make sure that we have completely cleaned up and closed our accounting and gotten through the bulk of budget season. But that was, both Brenda and Ben had asked if we could do that after January 1st.
Just won't keep having like checks that are,
We have had, and I'm not gonna say the name of the present bank we have, but we have had just a series of nightmares. Their scanning software stopped recognizing the routing numbers on our checks for an AP manifest. We bounced 7 or 8 checks. They weren't bounced, but they weren't read properly. Had to pay a couple of fees that we couldn't get them to waive, some other things. For whatever reason, when we do positive pay, with CSV files, literally every positive pay we do, we have a series of mismatches for no apparent reason. The name is identical. Basically, Ben and myself log in on a daily basis and exchange emails saying, did you see this? Can you verify, and bring Taylor, the finance person, in. But there's just been nothing easy. Today the auditors requested an exact statement amount from June 30th, the end of the year, on a CD. I talked to 3 people, including our corporate representative, all of whom assured me they would have me that information by 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock came and went. I did not get the information. I did not get a return phone call. I did not get a return email. So
great. January 1st can't come soon enough.
Myself and Keith Pike, who's the municipal agent for TD Bank, are planning on meeting right around January 1st.
Yeah.
How long have we been with this current bank?
We've been with this current bank in this current rendition for a little over a year. Prior to that, we had been with the bank they took over for, I don't know, half a century probably.
Yeah.
Because our account number, when I first came on, I asked the finance director for our general account number, and she gave me a 5-digit number. And
Wow.
I said, that can't be the bank account number. And she said, yes. She said, we've had this for, I don't know, it was like 47 years or something.
You know,
It's literally a 5-digit number.
So sad.
those checks that you got for the 3 of us, I called you about it. I tried to do direct scan it on my phone and stuff.
Yeah, I did.
And it says invalid.
Oh.
It wouldn't let me deposit the check, and I called Andy, and they did something, and then I deposited it, and it was fine. But it wasn't matching up, and it's just,
Got it. I think I deposited a few days after you.
yeah,
That's why
I
it's
did
fine.
it, yeah, I tried it the same day that it came, that you gave it to me, and the system
Wow.
didn't like it.
One of the other things that the town clerk's office is excited about is TD will provide check readers as a standard
Oh, that's great.
feature. So
Wow.
obviously, we still accept cash, and the transfer station still generates a fair amount of cash. So someone will have to do deposits, but the bulk of the intake and revenue is checks, and the ability to just feed those in as you take it and get a report at the end of the day.
Why not a money counter? They should give us one of those too.
So is that the credit card thing, or is that something?
No, this is someone gives you a check. It's basically a check scanner. You scan the check in, and
So how's the credit card thing coming?
it is coming. We still do not have a complete MDI account listing.
Okay.
We're getting there. If there was more than one outfit that did this, we'd be
So
talking
be
to some of their competitors.
So the transfer station, planning and zoning, police department, and you guys?
The police department and the assistant town administrator will be using it in conjunction with Parks and Rec for Parks and Rec fees and rental fees for facilities.
But planning and zoning for building permits and
Yep,
transfer station for the tickets.
materials, yep,
Love
tickets
it.
will go away. And right now, given the new exercise programs, there's a fair amount of interest and a fair amount of activity associated with Parks and Rec, and you can go to either end of the building. Denise can take your payment and make your reservation, or Karen can take your payment and make your reservation.
That's awesome. Yay. Okay, anything else? I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, so moved. Have a great night.
Thank you.
This is,
Oh, yep.
official, yeah.
You're the only guest, Mr. John.
You want us to do it this time?
You can do
If you
it.
want to.
Waste of paper.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was up on the porch, so he backyard, but that was 2 days ago, and like, as soon as he went to grab it, right away. Comments?
The entire budget committee and the board, they need that
And
copy.
like when so there's that, but
I
like,
forgot that gets these trends on newspaper.
yeah,
We try to be
come
sustainable.
out of the, where are we sitting? And now
All the
it's
children.
over, so they feel a little older. That-
This is my life, I've, just succumbed to it.
As long as you get so much, you don't still bear
So,
Yeah.